But this story about this speech in March, an excerpt taken, misinterpreted by the NAACP, by Breitbart.com, by the White House, by the Agriculture Department, and by the media, and me in particular. I saw that excerpt and said, what more do you need to hear? Well, the whole thing is the answer. What's your take?
Look, I was fascinated yesterday by the Obama White House and Robert Gibbs trying to put this on. Well, look, we're all guilty, and it's like the kind of thing in the '60s. You don't hold anybody responsible, hold everybody responsible. It's bull. The people who need to take responsibility and who need to look at themselves are the members of the Obama administration who were involved in this. The fact is, Fox News didn't say a word about Shirley Sherrod until Bill O'Reilly's show at about 8:50 Monday night, when she'd already been fired. So she wasn't fired because of pressure from the media. She was fired because of a knee-jerk rush to judgment by the Obama administration that was based perhaps on a fear of what the media would be, but not the reality of what the media would be. Bill O'Reilly had the good grace on Wednesday night to apologize for his role in it, because he did listen to those clips and went with them. But the fact is, she was fired before he had even said what he said. And ultimately, we have responsibility, and if we're going to say something, and as O'Reilly said, he should have checked the whole, or somebody in the staff should have checked the whole tape and not just based it on a clip that ran, which obviously did a disservice to Ms. Sherrod. But here you got President Obama and the Obama administration, and he ran for office talking about ending the 24/7 news cycle and ending all of this rush to judgment and all the who's up and who's down, and yet they're the guys who fired somebody, didn't talk about it on the TV, fired somebody because of their, without looking to check what she'd actually said. I really find that kind of amazing.
But now this story is going to live on, Chris, and here's why. Because Shirley Sherrod was on every channel this morning except ours, and essentially said, I want to hear from the president. It doesn't seem like Shirley Sherrod wants to go anywhere yet.
Well, boy, let me tell you, when I turned on the TV this morning and I saw that she had overnight flown from Atlanta, which is where she was, to New York so that she could appear live on the set of every one of the morning shows, with the exception of ours, you're exactly right. She isn't going anywhere. This is her 50 minutes. And look, I can understand that. She was vilified in the national media, and she wants her moment to make her case. I don't blame her for doing that, but you're exactly right. She's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and know what she wants. She wants to hear from the president. So that, I imagine the president.
Don't you find that amazing? Incidentally, I mean,
what?
The idea, and it's not inconceivable to me. Frankly, I hope the president doesn't speak to her. I mean, the idea that that somebody can hold the president up. Now, I understand she was an appointment, and I understand that she's an African American, and that he's the African American president, and indirectly he fired her. On the other hand, he's sort of a busy guy. I hope they have an aide talk to her, and he doesn't speak to her. I don't think the president should be sitting there every time somebody wants to, demands on the air. I think there's too much attention. There's too much being played out in the media. The president ought to tend to his knitting, do his job, and let other people handle this. The point is, if you're going to fire somebody, this is somebody who works for your administration. I think I know how it would work at Fox if you or I said something stupid. As I would hope our bosses, and I believe our bosses, would want to get the full context. If we did something on the air, they'd want to see the tape before they made a rush to judgments. I mean, they have nobody to blame but themselves, and I'm not sure saying, oh, well, it's the freak show. Again, I think that buys into a narrative that's kind of bogus and lets them off the hook. Well, the devil made me do it. No, you did it yourselves. And all they had to do, this would not be as a big a story if they had simply demanded from the NAACP, and you really have to wonder about the NAACP, which condemned her, and they had the tape and they hadn't even looked at it. If everybody had just done their due diligence and had somebody watch the 40-minute tape, they could have said, you know what, there's nothing here.
Yeah, I mean, she was trying to just illustrate a story how she's evolved as a person after her horrific experience of knowing her dad was murdered because he was black by a white person, and it goes on from there, and how she changed her views on race. It's really about helping poor people, not about helping white or black people. So that was the theme of her speech. I didn't know, to be honest, I didn't know it existed, but I should have pushed to make sure before we did it in the morning. So having said all that...
So did you throw her under the bus, did you?
Not really threw her under the bus, but we said we he said, listen, here's the tape and here's what the administration's done, and we can't wait to hear from her. I'm sure she's going to come out. We called her 3 times. She will not come on the air. And next thing you know, it turns out what I just said, that it was a illustration to show how she's evolved in her race.
Here's the one thing that I think is a cautionary tale for all of us, and this is where I do think that we should all learn a lesson. And I don't know what I would have done had this happened on my news cycle. It didn't. It happened on a Monday and Tuesday. We can't rely on these little clips that are played on
cell phone video.
You can't just rely on a clip of video. If there's a speech that a person's made, you gotta. Looking at the story that Howie Kurtz, who's the media writer for the Washington Post, writes in the Washington Post today, he says that Michael Clementi, our boss, the head of news gathering, the senior vice president for Fox News for news gathering, actually had a meeting on Monday and said exactly that. Let's not go off half-cocked. Let's find out what she really said before we do it. And the only one who did before she had been fired was Bill O'Reilly, and Bill apologized for it. And he said, I was wrong. I should have done my homework. We should have gone to get the tape before we put this woman on the air, before we tell this story to the American people and characterize her in a way that, as we all found out, turned out to be largely inaccurate. For either good intentions or bad intentions, and I've never met Andrew Breitbart, the conservative blogger who put this on. I don't know what he was doing. I don't know if he knew that this was unfair or not. But the answer is we can't cede our editorial judgment and our editorial due diligence to other people. If we're going to say that so-and-so said something outrageous, we need to check out and make sure that she really did say something outrageous.
Chris, the bottom line is I am surprised that we are still talking about race so much. I mean, it comes up every 6 months, 3 months. We're talking about race. And I'm going to tell you right now, if he's getting clobbered in 2012 in the polls, and it's clear, like Bob Dole knew he was going to lose for a while before he lost to Bill Clinton, if that is clear, I am sure we're going to be talking about he is not getting reelected because he's black.
All right, I'm not following you down that road. Let's wait and see. We're in 2010. Let's wait and see what happens. I hate this expression because it's becoming such a cliche about a teachable moment, but there really is a teachable moment here, certainly for the administration, which is don't rush for judgment and hire and fire people based on the lack of information or perceived fear of things. Again, they blamed it on things that were going to happen that hadn't even happened by the time they fired her. There was a preemptive firing to avoid a media storm. Talk about stupid.
Right.
And on our part, we can't be reporting stories unless we know the context.
You got it. Chris Wallace, we'll watch you on the weekend. We'll look forward to seeing you all the time on the channel. Thanks so much for joining us, Chris.
You bet. My pleasure.
It's like a 3-ring circus without the elephants to clean up after. Kilmeade and Friends.